There we go. Okay, great. And thank you for taking the time this evening. I know that for those of you that are in this time zone, it's dinner time. Some people might be in other time zones. So thank you so much for being here. And what we're going to talk about tonight are, number one, the skills of a great coach. I want to touch base on that because I think it's the same type of skill set that you would be looking for from a strong leader or a strong manager. And if you're going in that direction, we want to bolster some of those coaching skills. And I want you to be able to leave today with an idea of what some of those things are that you might want to strengthen. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about developing your own skills and talents. As you potentially move into entrepreneurship, if that's something you're interested in, it's really important to know who you are as a unique type of coach. What's your specific style? And I'm going to talk about myself and kind of how I got into this business as well, but that's a really important part of this journey. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about confidence and how important it is as you're building a business, and especially something like leadership coaching. You need to have a certain amount of confidence to go in and build trust with a team to say, I'm the right person to teach you these skills. I have the confidence. I believe in the framework I'm presenting. I believe in the opportunity for transformation in your organization. So that's a really big piece to moving in this direction in your career. We're also going to identify the people that you want to work with. So do you want to work with big companies? Do you want to work with small companies? Do you want to work in a certain industry as a leadership coach? These are all really important things to identify. Again, as you move in this direction, the more specific, the better. And I'm just like letting people in. So I'm getting a little distracted. So I'm going through the things we're going to talk about tonight if you're just joining. So you also want to figure out the potential pain points of these clients. So if you're going to work potentially as a leadership coach in a large organization, the pain points might be different than the organization that's smaller, that has a smaller, more intimate management style. So you need to have an idea of what are the pain points that you're trying to solve for, and why are you the best person to solve those pain points? That's going to be important as we go in this direction. Then you're going to need to create an offer, and you're going to need to get that offer in front of as many people as possible. So I'm going to go through this again, but these are some of the steps needed to really become your own boss, potentially become a leadership coach or consultant. These are the steps, and I'm going to deep dive into them tonight. So who am I? Why am I the person that's qualified to have this conversation with you? So as I mentioned before, for the people that joined, I'm a business coach and consultant. I came out of advertising. So I was basically, before I launched this business, I was a burned out advertising executive. I worked on the operational side of advertising agencies, and I worked a lot with helping businesses grow and scale. And when I was looking for a career change, I started looking at what were my unique skills and talents? What did I bring to the table? And what did I love most about my job? And when I looked at it, it was really this idea of guiding and mentoring and managing my teams. Like, I loved being in a check-in with somebody and holding space for them and really listening and tuning into, what was their potential? What was their untapped potential? Where could they go in their career? I just loved seeing people thrive. It was so exciting to me and felt so impactful. That was the part of my job that really gave me the most satisfaction. So I'm going to just ask you all to mute.
Oh, no, I'm already on it.
If you don't mind. So I was looking at this idea of what could I do to kind of coach and guide and mentor? What is that? And that's how I landed on coaching, because I looked around me in these organizations where I was working, these different agencies, and I just wasn't seeing managers with the same level of values that I felt like I was bringing to the table. There wasn't a big emphasis in the organization on having a unified way to manage or having a leadership philosophy or teaching people to coach, to manage like a coach. And I wasn't really seeing it. And so I decided, I want to try to train leaders inside of organizations. I want to teach them these skills. I want to teach them empathy and how to get the best out of people and how to hold space for people. And I also want to help the people that have been suffering, like the people that are in these work environments that might feel slightly toxic because they don't have management that's advocating for them or helping them grow or fixing issues, right? And so I wanted to help people, employees, also get out of those environments. So I wanted to change the environments by building stronger leaders and help people get out of those environments by giving them the confidence and the belief in themselves. They could potentially even go and start their own business. So these are sort of the two people that I help foster through their careers. And so what I've done now is I've created this leadership coach certification program that I feel like marries those two groups. So now I'm giving people the tools to coach leaders inside their own organizations or to do it as a profession, to bring this framework forward where we're coaching more leaders to be really strong, compassionate people that are helping people thrive, that are making the workplace just more productive, happier, where people feel like they're more purposeful and impactful in their work. So that is a little bit about me. I launched my business 5 years ago, and since then I've really built trust and relationships with the organizations that I work with. But one thing I can tell you, if you're looking into moving into leadership coaching as a new career, there's plenty of work. Like you could all start a business and there would be no limit to the amount of work, because this is a place where companies are investing and where people are really hungry for the information. There are leaders who want to be better at their jobs. They want to have the skills and tools to lead as a coach. They want to help people thrive. It's just that a lot of organizations don't have the time or infrastructure to be able to support these types of programs. So they look outside. They look for third parties. They look for coaches and consultants to come in and shore up the whole leadership team. And with the work that I've done, I see the same types of problems, the same types of pain points over and over. So as you hone in what these pain points are for your potential clients, again, you want to align that with what you're good at, what you know, some of those things. So one of the questions I want to ask you all too, so I kind of want to open the chat again here. I want to find out too, have you ever coached or been coached? Is coaching familiar to you? Is it something that you have experience with? Because I want to make sure that I'm not going to the basics if you already have a starting point. And if you have been coached before, what was the thing that you found most valuable about coaching? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the traits I think are really, really key in a strong coach. So let me know. Let me know if you have experience coaching or being coached. So for those of you that joined right after 6, as your answers come through, I want to go through the things that we're going to focus on tonight. So how do you move in this direction? What are the things that you need? Well, you want to identify first, what are your unique skills and talents? So I alluded to this already. So what do you bring that's a soft skill, that's a hard skill, that's something that you really value about yourself? What is that thing that you bring forward? It might feel irrelevant, But trust me, if you don't align to your own skills and talents and you try to show up as a leader that you've seen, that you want to emulate, maybe you don't even necessarily agree with that person. You're just seeing that type of leader around you. Maybe you're questioning, like, how can I show up as a coach, or how can I show up as a leader if I don't see leaders showing up like me? It's really important that you not worry about that part, that you hone in on what's unique about you, what's unique about your skill set, your talents. What do you bring forward, whatever that is? So one of the things in one of the agencies I worked at, I had a team of 20 people. And I had a manager who was just not that skilled in the part of coaching, which was listening, like engaged, active listening. And she didn't really understand my vision for my team, but my team understood it. And to me, that was what was most important. But my manager could see that my style was more empathetic and more nurturing. And that manager didn't see those as skills that were important. And I could have just turned those things off and said, okay, well, then I'm not going to show up empathetic. I'm not going to show up in this nurturing way. I could have gone in that direction, but instead I had the confidence to say, you know what? I think that this is actually working. I think my team is thriving. And I think part of it is because I am empathetic. I am listening. I am nurturing them. I'm also giving them tough love and giving them feedback. But this is something unique to me. This is a style I bring forward and it's working. As soon as it's not working, I'm totally open to shifting it. But this is something about me and my management style that makes it unique to me. So the first thing I want you to do on this journey is really identify what's unique about you. What is a skill or a talent that you bring forward? So think about that. I'm going to peek over at the chat. So I just want to read through some of these. So I've coached, but I want an update on what I know. Not formally, but I have informally coached and been coached. I'm going to work as a lifestyle coach to help others improve lifestyle choices, polish up leadership skills. Great. Okay. So think about what's unique about you. I'd love to hear some of your ideas. Sometimes it's hard to look at yourself objectively and think about these things as being important when you show up as a potential coach, show up in this type of space. You might not think there's a lot of value in that. We're going to put all that aside, right? That's mindset. We can get to those mindset places, but just objectively make a list of the skills that maybe people have identified in you in the past. Maybe teams have said, hey, I really value this. Maybe employers have said this to you. Maybe it's stuff that comes up in your personal life. But what's a skill that you have that you could apply that would be relevant as you move into coaching as a potential career? What's something unique about you? Drop some ideas in the chat. This is a really important starting point. And when I work with entrepreneurs, we spend a lot of time in this space because you want to make sure as you're building a business or you're going into a new career that there's some longevity. You don't want to go towards something that doesn't feel aligned, that doesn't really feel true to you, right? That's what we're getting away from. If we're moving into a new career, it's because we want a change. We want something that feels more aligned with who we are. We want to be recognized for these skills and talents. So we need to build our coaching practice around those skills and talents and start to work through them and elevate them. So knowing your own skills and talents before you go into this direction will be important, and see where you can apply them. So you want to make sure as you go towards this, you learn some coaching tools and techniques, obviously. So I want to go through 2 techniques that I find really important, that are really to me specific to coaching. There are strong leaders and managers out there who have some amazing skills and talents. I think in terms of a couple of tools that might help you as you're elevating as a leader or think about coaching, I want to give you a couple of these tools. So I know that some of you are saying, empathy is an important skill, things like that. So one of the things is called holding space. And this might be a term that you've heard before, but a strong coach, a strong manager holds space. And what does that mean? It means that whatever your person is bringing, whatever your client or the person you're coaching or the team you're coaching or the organization, the CEO, whoever you're dealing with, you're holding space for them, and that space is theirs. So you're not coming with your own objectives. You're not coming with your own agenda. You're not coming with your ego. You're not coming with, passive aggressive tactics, defensiveness, right? You're staying neutral. You're coming into the space, you're staying neutral, and you're opening the space for them. This is for them. This is their time. Sometimes what they bring, particularly if you're providing feedback, if you're in a management situation, you're providing feedback, sometimes what they bring could feel not great to you, right? It could feel maybe like they're attacking you sometimes. Lots of things. They could just be very emotional. They could be feeling very vulnerable. And here's the thing, whatever they bring doesn't belong to you. It doesn't mean that you don't have compassion, but holding space means you're giving them that time to be as vulnerable as they need to, and you're not judging, and you're not making it mean anything about you, and you're not absorbing it. Right? You're just holding that space. And I keep saying it over and over because I just keep picturing it's like a pool. They get to swim and you're not going to get in there with them. You're not going to judge or backstab people or gossip or get in there. You're not going to get into the stories. They're going to come with lots of stories and ideas, and you're going to stay objective. I like to use the metaphor of a sports coach. You're on the sidelines. You're guiding, you're watching, you're providing feedback. You're seeing where they can tweak and alter their performance. You're watching them train and then go into the place where it matters, right? And then come back. So you're providing that objective view of what they're doing without getting in there with them. So this is one of the traits that is a little different when you think about management styles versus coaching. So what you're doing when you come in and you hold that space is that you are building trust. Because again, you're not coming with an agenda. You're not coming to convince them of something or to give advice even. You're just there to listen actively. And then what's great is that you can, if you're really listening actively and holding space and not interpreting what they say and again, trying to process it by making it mean something, if you're really holding that time, being objective, you can use their own words. You can ask them questions. You can say why, you can ask them why, and they'll know you're listening. And then guess what? They're going to feel seen, and they're going to feel like somebody cares about what they're saying, and somebody is not just trying to tell them what to do, right? You want to get them to come to their own solution through guidance. You want to help them problem solve. So this idea of holding space is a really, really big tool that you can use even now in your coaching and in your management. But I think this is the start of it all. If you're moving in this direction as a career, you're going to need to pitch a company on your services, right? And you can do the same thing in the pitch, right? Come and hold space for the person. What are your pain points? What are your issues? Let's get on a call. Let's talk it through, right? This is you offering that opportunity, even as you're selling in your services as a leadership coach or a consultant. You can use this same skill. Listen, use their words, be objective. Don't believe all the stories. When I work with CEOs, they love to vent. They love to vent about their teams. And if I believed everything I heard from every CEO about every person on their team, I would not be an effective coach for their team, right? Because I would believe all these things. But it's not that they're lying or that I don't believe they believe what they're saying. But for me as a coach, it's not going to be effective if I'm following them down these rabbit holes. I just need to be an observer and watch where they're going so that I can provide them feedback, so that I can help them see where they might need to shift or tweak. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to peek at the chat also. So some of the things that you bring forward, this is where we started this conversation, your unique skills as you go into a potential coaching practice or working as a coach, up-leveling your skills. Patience and understanding is what M says. And also the idea of creating opportunities, finding creative solutions for yourself and others. I love that, Leanne. So keep thinking about these ideas of what's important. What are the skills that you bring forward that are just uniquely yours? And then in coaching, we want to think about holding space. So, and I talked about how this idea of holding space is also important if you are basically going in and trying to talk to a client about your services. So what is the next step to becoming your own boss as a leadership coach? So learning some of these coaching tools and techniques, right? I think, one of the things that I feel is important about getting a certification, and what was important to me was, yes, I had some inherent skills that I brought with me from managing and from guiding teams and just intuitively being the person I am. That's where you start. But when you go in and bolster these skills and learn techniques and get a certification, you're building confidence because now you have tools that have been tried and tested. And you also have a certification to be able to go in with a certain sense of legitimacy. Like, I'm a certified leadership coach. I'm going to lead your team to X. This is the framework I'm going to bring. So these tools are important, but there's also a level of legitimacy that comes with a certification. A lot of people come to me and say, well, can I just start coaching? 100%. You 100% could go out and start coaching today. There's no actual industry regulation that tells you you can't. But there's a part of you that is not going to get to that next up-leveled place unless you're like very clear that you know that your tools work, right? So, and there was this thing for me when I moved into this as a career, I needed to test them again in this new atmosphere, right? So I had tested my frameworks on my teams and I was seeing transformation. But then I needed to bring it into this new context and test it again, right? And this is what you do when you're getting certified, because you know that those tools have been tested. You know that those tools bring transformation to people and to organizations. And when you know that, when you have that confidence, you go into coaching believing that your clients and your people and the organizations you work with will have transformation 100%. There is no doubt in my mind that when people come to work with me, they will have transformation. 100%. They will either launch and build a successful business, or they'll learn the tools to be a successful coach, or they will bolster the skills they need inside of the organization where they are, right? Because I've done it. I've seen it happen over and over. So now I've tested it enough that I know it works. So if you don't have the ability to test and try and test and try, getting a certification is going to give you that level of confidence where you know you're using frameworks that have already been tested and trialed. And it meant so much to me. I went through a 2-year certification program. It was intense. But when I left that conversation, when I left that certification program, I went into the market feeling very confident and going into conversations with potential clients, knowing what they were going to get, what the impact was going to be, what the benefits were going to be. So these tools and techniques like holding space are things that you're going to get through a program, through a training program. So I can't emphasize that enough. I just feel like, yes, absolutely. Like anyone can go into a coaching program or become a consultant. But I just feel like that certification is what pushed me over the edge and allowed me to be much more successful faster by having tools I knew were tested and the confidence going in and knowing that I was using tools that had already been tested, if that makes sense. So that's important to me as I lead you through this process. I want you to know I feel like that is really critical, a critical component. Okay, so to go back through this list, know your own unique skills and talents. Hold space. Hold space for your teams, hold space for your clients. This is going to be really important in the first steps in going in this direction. It's something you can work on now, this idea of holding space. It's going to give you much more energy because you're not going to be taking all of that stuff on as if it belongs to you. And so it's something you can work on now. And then it's something that's going to help you when you're selling in your offer. So that's where we're going now. So you need to identify the people that you want to work with. And that's based on your skills and talents. If you've never worked in a large corporation, that's probably not where you want to start. It's probably not where you want to start your business. If you've always worked in big corporations and you've never worked in a startup, for instance, maybe you don't want to be the startup coach, right? Maybe you want to lean on what you know. It doesn't mean you're going to be there forever, but identifying that niche right in the beginning, people have different ideas about this. Some people think you should cast a wide net. I disagree. I think the more specific you are to who you want to work with, who you support, who you feel like you can help the most, that's where you want to start. And you can grow from there. But I started working with agencies. It made perfect sense. I came from the advertising agency world. I knew how it worked. I still have clients that are CEOs of advertising agencies. I still coach and train leaders in advertising agencies, but I've grown my business beyond that. I work with, like I said, individuals who are in career change, and I also work with companies that are not in the advertising industry at all. So I've been able to stretch, but I wanted to start my business there. It was the easiest place to start. So identify who you want to work with and what are the pain points that they might have. So again, if you're leaning on an industry where you've already been, you know the pain points, you know what they are. And because you know your own unique skills and talents, you know how you're best served to help support them in getting over those pain points. So what's an example of a pain point? So a pain point might be managers are always saying that their team doesn't have the skills to take on the work. Okay, so I hear this a lot, like my team's just not trained up. They don't have the skills. And so I have to go into the weeds and do the work. I basically have to micromanage them because they don't have the skills. So that's a pain point, right? They believe their team doesn't have the skills. To me, it's a coaching problem. So have you coached your team? What does that mean? Well, are you listening? Are you listening to their challenges? Are you helping them problem solve? Right? You're not doing the work. Are you an observer, a neutral observer of how they're working? So this is what I see as a coaching problem rather than oh, you need to fire everybody. Like, okay, your pain point is you think you don't have the team with the talent. Let's look at how you're managing them. Are you setting clear expectations? And are you giving them time to learn, right? Sometimes you have to get the expectation reset, and then you have to go out and try it again. And then you have to course correct, right? So as you're telling leaders this, how to coach, how to be objective and not to get in there and do the work, because I spend a lot of time trying to get leaders out of the weeds so that teams have more time and space and autonomy. And those leaders keep getting in there because they think their teams don't have the skills, but then what they're not doing is they're not coaching them. They're not letting them course correct and then giving them feedback. So this is another thing that's really critical as a coach or a leader is providing feedback. It's one of the hardest things for people to do, but it's one of the most effective things that you can do to get your team thriving. Provide them consistent, clear, graceful feedback, right? So now I'm doing two things, right? I'm showing you some coaching skills and also some ways that you can move in the direction of making this your business. I'm flip-flopping back and forth between the two. So I hope you're following. So we want to bolster our coaching skills, and we want to identify our unique skills and talents, and we want to know the people we want to work with, and we need to know their pain points and how we can help them through their pain points. If we know their pain points, but we don't think we can help them with their pain points, then that might not be the right pain point. You know what I mean? If you don't have an answer to their pain point, find another pain point. So dig around. If you have been a manager and you had your own pain points, start there. That's a great place to start. Things that you were working through, coach yourself. Okay, now if I'm looking at it from a coach's perspective, how would I help myself get over those bumps? How would I help myself figure out the issues that I'm having as a leader or coach? The main thing, again, that I love is just you can always take that step back and just look at it objectively. Don't get in the stories. Don't get in the weeds. Just take a step back. Take a breather. So now you've identified who you want to work with. You've identified their pain points. And now you have to figure out what you're offering them. So what is the service that you want to provide for them? How are you going to get them over that pain point? Is it going to be a training? Is it going to be one-on-one coaching? What are all the things that you could potentially offer? And as you look at your unique skills, make sure that you're aligning with that. If you're offering a training and you hate being in front of people, you do not like being in front of people, training is probably not the way to go, right? If you don't really like one-to-one conversations with people or having to provide feedback, maybe one-on-one isn't the direction. And what I really love about my training programs too is that you have a group of colleagues now, and if you love training and they love one-on-one coaching, well, that's a perfect marriage, right? I've done, even with the colleagues I had in my certification program, we've done collaborative projects together. And it's amazing. Like that's part of the benefit of being a part of a program is that you now have colleagues and you can do this together. You don't have to do it alone. I think that's really important. So that's something that when you're creating an offer for your people, Also offer them a space where there might be some community aspect to that too. So for instance, if I'm working with a CEO, I might say, listen, I'm going to have, a group call with all my CEO clients. I think it would be really helpful to you to be there, to be able to have peers that are outside of your organization to talk shop with and to throw ideas around with and to have as a sounding board. So that's something that is really valuable as you're creating an offer that you're going to sell. Because again, if you're going into this as a business, sometimes that community aspect is really important for people struggling with leadership issues, right? So if you are thinking about becoming a coach, the best thing you can do is surround yourself with other people that are also wanting to become a coach or are coaches, and they can provide you with helpful resources and information. So the steps to go from where you might be now into making a career shift into being a leadership coach or leveling up your skills, you want to really objectively know your own skills, know your talents, know your soft skills. What do you value about what you bring to the table? What's the thing that maybe doesn't always get recognized, but is a really solid skill? Identify those things because you're going to build your business around those skills, or you're going to build, what's next in your career around elevating those skills. Really important. Build confidence around those skills. Really believe that what you bring forward with those skills can be helpful, impactful, transformative for people. Build that confidence. Identify the people that you want to work with. And this can be inside your organization now. If you are a manager, maybe you are seeing other managers that you want to help. So open up that opportunity. Who do you want to support? Who has pain points that you understand, that you might have an idea of how to support them with those pain points, right? Identify those pain points. And then you want to create an offer. And this can be on a large scale or a small scale. What does that look like? What am I going to offer you? So it has to be something that's really quick to show a return so that you can build trust with people. So you want to make sure that you're offering something that they immediately see a change. So don't make it too complicated. That first offer, you might just be offering, how about I come in and interview everyone at your company? Let me just find out what the pain points are, actually. I don't know what your pain points are. Let me just come in and do an interview. I love this. Like, it's such a great way to get in the door with people. Let me just come in and do an audit. Let me get on the phone with you and just talk through your pain points, right? So this is your first offer. So here I am, right? So my offer to you is set up a call with me. Set up a call and we can talk through your pain points. Like, I'm offering this to you. I would love to get on the phone for 20 minutes with you. What are your pain points? How can we work through them? How can I hold space for you? How can I help you problem solve the situation that you're in, right? So this is an offer I'm making to you. It's something that, like, if you want to deep dive more, another offer is that maybe you want to coach with me. Maybe you're ready to take your business to the next level. You want to do one-on-one coaching. You want to deep dive into all of these topics. Come and coach with me. Or if you want to learn how to be a leadership coach, if you want to go through my training in the certification, like, that's an offer I'm making to you, right? So I'm making 3 offers. But the first one is, I just want to know your pain points. I think this is just so helpful to any client that you might potentially serve. Like, let me just come in and do some interviews. Let me get on the phone with you. Let me find out your pain points. And then I can craft a solution for you, an offer for you that might be really helpful. And remember, this idea of holding space. I mean, if all you do is walk away with this idea of holding space, when you make this offer, when you ask these questions, if you just hold space for them and you're not bringing your own ego into it, if you're not trying to have an agenda, if you're not trying to push anything, if you're like, listen, I'm here, I'm going to ask you lots of questions and I'm going to listen to your answers. And I'm not going to tell you how to do it. And I'm not going to give you advice, but I am going to ask lots of questions and I'm going to try to pull information out of you. And then I'm going to use your own words. I'm going to say, hey, this is what I heard. And it builds so much trust. It builds trust in the people you're coaching, and it builds trust in your new potential client. If you're getting on the phone with them and you're asking them loads of questions and you're really listening and you're using their own words, they're just going to feel seen. They're going to have trust in you immediately. They're going to feel like you know what you're talking about. You know how to ask these questions, right? And if you're not sure, if you're like, okay, I'm ready to hold space for people, but I don't know what those questions are, the only question you have to ask is why. It seems really simple, but I would love for you to practice this even in your personal life. Just ask why. It seems like when I started doing this, it seemed kind of ridiculous. And then people are like, oh, why? No one's asked me that before. Like, oh, why? Just that one question is so powerful. It just really gets people thinking. And you might hear the answer and you might want to ask it again. Like, okay, I heard you say this. Now tell me why. Why that? Why is that happening? Or why do you think that? Why? So sometimes it can just be as simple as why, and sometimes you might want to extend it into a deeper question. But this is how you start to build trust. It's how you start to build trust in your teams. They know you care. You're not forcing anything on them. And it's also how you build trust in your potential new clients. Because if you're about to coach them, right, they have to see you in action in that call using the techniques that you're going to use when you're coaching them, either one-on-one or in some kind of training situation. You want to go in there right from the get-go. These are my skills. I'm going to hold space for you and I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to lead you to a potential answer. Maybe the answer is my offer. It's so interesting when you get there with a client, you just start asking questions, holding space, listening to what they're saying. And you're like, you know what I think could help you? Me coming in and doing an audit. So make sure before you go into any phone call, you always have that offer in your back pocket. What could I offer them if I get on a phone call? And again, it's not because you're trying to sell something. It's because you see a pain point that you can help them get over. So you want to make sure that you know what that is that you want to offer them. Like, I think I know what could help you here. And it's not, again, it's not manipulative at all because it might not be the thing they need, right? It's only if you get to that point where you're like, here's the offer. It seems like this is what you need. But you might get to a different place in that conversation and you're like, you know what? I don't actually think that I have anything to offer you. I work with a lot of people who also will say, you know what? I might not be the right coach for you, but I know someone who could be. So like, this isn't quite my niche. Oh, I don't really know your industry. Actually, let me refer you to someone else. That might be the offer. It might be offering them a referral or offering them another source. It might not be your solution. That might not be what you get to. But if you're there holding space, building trust, you're building a network, you're building a relationship, right? As a coach, as a potential colleague, as a potential, in a client vendor relationship, right? These are all the ways that holding space can start to help your business, can start to help you as a coach. And it also, again, like helps you maintain your energy because coaching can be intense. Managing can be intense. People bring a lot of stuff to the table. And if you're taking it in and you're making it personal, it's going to be hard. I coach a lot of CEOs and high-level leaders who might have more intense work environments where they might have people who are more emotional, and if they take all of that in and they make it about them and they make it theirs, and they're trying to, solve it in a way that's really hurting them, they're not doing anyone any favors, right? If they're taking it all in, they're going to get depleted. So this holding space thing is something you can use in your personal life too, right? It's not yours. You don't have to always take it, right? Just lead someone else to solving the problem. Ask all the questions, listen intensely, but don't take it on like this is my problem to solve. If I tried to solve every CEO's every problem, I wouldn't have any time to do this webinar. Instead, I just ask the questions. I show up, I ask the questions, I hold the space for them. Sometimes that's enough. That's all they want. Sometimes they just want someone to be a sounding board. That can be enough as a coach. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be, 100 paces ahead of everyone. When I'm leading CEOs of, 15 million, 30 million dollar, euro, pound companies, like people who are making revenue in those amounts, it doesn't mean that I'm running a company of that size to be able to support them. I can use the tools that I've learned to be able to support them in that way, that I don't have to have all the answers to every single question. So holding space was the big coaching concept I wanted you to get out of today. And I wanted you to have the steps that you need to be able to potentially move in this direction, right? So we went through all those steps. And if you work on those things, if you know the pain points, if you know who you want to work with, and you build an offer, you could go out immediately, right? I mean, those are the building blocks to being able to do this as a career. So does the coaching session need to end with some sort of conclusion? Well, here we are. Yes and no. I mean, I like to give people actions. When I leave a coaching session, I like to say, okay, here's what we worked on. Here's what I'd like to see you work on for next time. I'm giving you a homework assignment, right? Right now, I'm telling you, practice this holding space technique. That's how I would wrap up a session. Leave it with an action item that they can try and test and see if it works. See if it helps them get through that pain point, right? That's the most effective. I believe that action is an important part of the coaching process. You want people to take action. It's not always about just let's get into your brain and start to suss it out. You also want them to take an action that's going to put them in the position where they have to practice, right? Where they have to practice this thing. We're talking about coaching leaders, right? So in this scenario, so that means they need to practice these coaching techniques and take them out into the world. So I hope that's helpful. And like I said, I mean, my offer to you is, if you are currently a leader and you're trying to up level and you want to, have a brainstorm with me, or you're trying to launch a business or you're growing a business, set up a call with me. My website is practica.consulting. And if you signed up for the webinar, you probably already saw my website, but I put it in the chat. You can book a call with me, and it can be a 20-minute discovery call. It can be quick. And even in 20 minutes, you can get some real concrete coaching. I'm going to hold space for you. You're going to see it in action. There's no obligation here. I am literally giving you the offer of call me and we'll talk about where you're at. We'll talk about your pain points. I get so much joy out of, even in 20 minutes, if I can help solve something or help you come to a conclusion or ask you the right questions. If you're seeing value in that, that is huge for me. I love it. Like, I get so much out of that. So I would really encourage you, like, take advantage. I mean, I'm giving you like a free offer. And then also, I'm running this leadership coach training program. I typically do one-on-one coaching. So this is a beta program, and it's exclusive. I'm keeping it really intimate because I want people in this coach training program to really hone in on these skills, to really refine them, to be able to go out and either build a business or work inside of an organization and feel really, really solid about their skills. So I have a 6-week training certification program. It's an application process. You can read about it on the website. It's in the programs section. It's a 6-week program. It starts in April, and you're going to be coaching peers, doing practice coaching. I'll lead you through a training. You'll practice the skills with a peer, and then I'll give you feedback in those peer coaching sessions. So it's very intensive, but in a great way. It's just 1 hour a week, and then you meet with your peer an hour a week. But you ramp up your skills really fast. You're going to see major improvements in your leadership skills and in your coaching style, and you'll feel really confident leaving that program, able to go out and coach and train and feel really confident in your skills. So that's my goal. But like I said, it's a really small program. So I would encourage you to get through it's just a really short questionnaire for the application. I'll also have a call with you just to make sure it's a good fit for you, that you have the time and everything to be able to dedicate to it. And then we'll be starting the first week of April. So again, you can ask me any questions about that program, but I'm so grateful you all were here. I hope you got some nuggets that you can take from this call and kind of go and apply for yourself. I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes here to know if anyone has any questions. So drop any questions you might have in the chat. I'm happy to answer it, whether it's related to my programs or if it's just something that you're curious about or struggling with. And if you don't have any questions, you're happy to obviously drop off, but I'll hang out for the next 5 minutes and just answer any questions you guys might have, either about something I talked about or something that might be just related to something you're struggling with. No questions coming through. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. You have the floor. You have my undivided attention. And I'm going to go through a little bit more of these chats and just see if there's anything else we want to check in about. Is Nakeem still here? Okay, I wanted to talk to her about the lifestyle coaching that she's going into. Okay, so Vanessa, okay, tell you a little bit more about the program. So I have one-on-one coaching, which is very customized. So one-on-one coaching is a super deep dive. And it's literally what it sounds like. 1-to-1, we work together for 3 months and we set a roadmap together. We do an intake. I ask you what your pain points are. We work towards this 3-month roadmap, and we really get you from where you are now to your big lofty goals in 3 months. The leadership coach training program is a 6-week program where you'll have coaching with me every week, where you're going to learn these concepts like holding space, and you'll have video materials to go with those concepts. And then you're going to practice those concepts with your peers. So it's an intimate group of 8 people, and they'll become your colleagues, and you're going to do practice coaching sessions with them every week. So 1 week you'll coach, the next week they'll coach, or you can split the hour that you have together and do half and half. You'll take the concept from that week and you'll apply it in the call. And then in the middle of the program, so it's a 6-week program, at week 3, I'm going to jump into your peer coaching calls and I'm going to provide you feedback. So I'm going to, use the concepts, talk you through what you're doing well, what you might want to improve on, and then we'll do that again at the end. You need to also in order to get the certification, you need to do some coaching outside of the program as well. So I think you have an additional I want to say 10 hours of coaching. And then you leave the program after 6 weeks with a leadership coach certification. So let's see. So how do you narrow down your target clientele in the beginning? You mentioned you don't recommend spreading a wide net. So I love this. So yes, to narrow down your niche in the beginning, lean on what you know. So what industry are you stepping out of? What do you already know? Where's your network? It's really good in the beginning to just lean there. So I came out of advertising agencies. That's where I went. That was my network. So I went into advertising agencies to start to build my clientele. And then I expanded from there, but go into what you know. Start there. It's a really good place to start. So M says, I would assume that research of your client is critical before coaching them. What are the most critical pieces of research you need? 100%. So this is where if you get on a call with them and you find out their pain points, you're going to have an understanding of where they're coming from. So if you know the industry already, that's a good starting point in terms of research. You sort of know some of the bigger holistic things that are important to them as a business. And so what's going to be important to them as leaders in that business, you're going to understand a little bit more about the vision. If you don't have that, I would just do interviews with all their people, right? This is something I mentioned as a potential offer to them. Just say, listen, I don't know enough yet to be able to figure out how to customize my coaching. So what I'd like to do is just come in and interview everybody about their pain points. It's such a valuable tool. They think it's just so important, and the team starts to build trust in you. So if you start coaching the team, you've already asked them all the questions. You've given them an opportunity to bring their pain points forward. So that's part of the research process, I feel like. And the second question here, you sat in on a coach training last week. It was clearly stated that if you're ICF certified, you're discouraged to ask the question why during your coaching sessions. It seems counterintuitive to me. You also mentioned we can ask why, wondering what's your take on this. So I have no idea why it's discouraged. In my training, it actually is so effective because again, it's you want to open the space. Why is such an open question? You're not leading anyone anywhere. You just get to keep unraveling what they're already talking about. I see no problem in asking that question. I also, to be honest, it's a little bit of a red flag to me if someone's so hard and fast with a rule like you can't say this in a session. You want to align to what's true for you. And if it feels awkward to not ask why because someone gave you that rule, my whole philosophy about coaching is take the tools and integrate them and make them yours. You've identified your unique skills. So there's no hard and fast rule. You have to be authentically you. When I got trained on a certain type of model and framework. I had to assimilate that framework and make it true for me. So if any coaching program is telling you this is a hard and fast rule, you can never do this, to me, it's actually a little bit of a red flag. So I hope that answers your question, Dora. Thank you all for hanging out until the hour. And again, please feel free to get in touch, ask any questions, set up a call. I'd love to chat with you. And enjoy the rest of your night or day. Talk soon. And I'll also send out the recording. So if there are things that you didn't get to jot down, you'll have the recording after, probably tomorrow. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.